All right, everybody. Welcome to our afternoon lightning round sessions. My name is Rachel Miller, and I'm here from the Alaska Food Policy Council Board. Thanks for being here. So we are going to kick off one of many sessions this afternoon. It's post-lunch. We're all excited, so let's make sure and be extra enthusiastic for them. Let's welcome Alaska Native Greens to the stage.
Woo!
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. We are Alaska Native Greens. I am Kelly May. I am originally from Hooper Bay, Alaska, and I live in Fairbanks.
Hello, my name is Nels Christensen. My Gwich'in name is Shochgi. My family is from the village of Gwich'in, otherwise known as Fort Yukon, and I live in Fairbanks, Alaska.
And we're here to present to you our work with Alaska Native Greens and kind of the structure that we have for the business and just a little bit of what we do on the farm. All right, so it started off in 2018 as a chaga cooperative. It's still functioning. Callen Christensen runs it right now. And it started off with aggregating wild foods and distributing it. And then after a while, we realized we really want to grow indigenous foods indoors. And so we're like, let's start off trying to figure out how to do salmonberries. And after reaching out to a few people, we got wind of an opportunity to create a farmer hydroponic farm training center. And so, this partnership was with Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District, and to create a farm for AFFECT, Alternative Fairbanks Farmer Education Cooperative Training Program. And 2021, we started conducting market research, reaching out to restaurants, institutions, cafes, and rural tribal communities also, and trying to see how we could create a hydroponic farm that meets their needs. We came down here to Anchorage, visited a few farms. As you can see, there's City Farms. We went and visited them, Seeds of Change, and Anchorage Greens. And we got an idea of what other kind of systems are being run in Alaska. And if you haven't seen them, check them out. Great products. You can get them multiple places. So the creation of the farm, Callen Christensen did an awesome job. Couldn't have done it without him. Chog Cooperative, he'll be presenting in a few sessions today. And it was a farmer training center to create greens bags to provide to people on a weekly basis. This provided a time for us to create unit costs, to scale up the farm as we talk to rural communities, institutions, and many other people. The operation of the farm is deep water culture. So what that means is we have about 2 inches of water that runs constantly through the system. And it's the reason why we chose that system instead of the drip irrigation system that we saw at a few of the other farms was because it's more resilient when power goes out. There'll be water on the roots for as long as the time as the power is out. We transplant every week, plant every week, so that allows us to have a weekly harvest.
So one of the features of our farm is that we're able to host prospective farmers through the AFFECT training. And the model that we're creating with Alaska Native Greens would be we want to help create multiple farms. That way we can leverage existing capital and incentivize innovation within the interior food system. And the structure that we've developed for Alaska Native Greens was inspired by profit sharing provisions as part of ANCSA, but we also developed this model from suggestions that we've garnered from elders and other leaders in Alaska's food systems. And we're working to create a model for collective food production to feed our vast state. And part of our team is that we have democratically elected members that will manage aspects of the farm. As part of my onboarding as a Alaska Native Greens member is we're developing a year-long internship program to equip people with the skills and knowledge around hydroponic systems to help them do market research and create innovative hydro systems that will reach their beachhead markets that they have chosen. And some of our goals for the future would to be furthering our work and research with Alaska Native vegetation and food products. So we have wild seeds that we're looking to develop for hydroponic systems and be able to distribute on a larger scale and essentially reintroduce some of these nutritional products into our communities. And some of the things that we're doing with that are we're focusing on cloudberries, and we want to develop farms that'll be specialized for like tomato production or cucumbers, whatever the market dictates. And we're looking to have a knowledge exchange and information being shared between tribal communities and through the AFFECT program and other institutions. And one of the pictures there is we have a stand set up at the co-op market in Fairbanks. So right under that hydroponic stands is a picture of Kelly tending to that. So yes, very thankful to be here today. So want to say masi cho to you all for being here and listening to our presentation.
Next generation of rock stars. Woo! Nice job. And that's Alaska Native Greens. Check it out. Our next group coming up to speak is, the session is entitled Traditional Foods in Head Start Programs. Come on down, up, whatever you want to do. And they'll give you time right there.
Okay, hello everyone. I will go ahead and just dive right in. My name is Meghan Adair, and I am the registered dietitian at Rural KAPA. And I guess I need this remote. Do I go this way? So I want to give you a little background to what I do as a dietitian at Rural KAPA. I oversee our Head Start programs throughout the state. We have 22 Head Start sites, and they are, what we do is it's primarily 3 and 4-year-olds, and it's like a preschool program where they get to come and learn and prepare to, it just helps prepare them so that they are ready to go into starting kindergarten when they turn 5. And these Head Start programs are federally funded, or part of the funding comes from CACFP, the Child and Adult Care Food Program. And this is what happens is as we meet all of the guidelines for their nutrition, for their meal plans, we are reimbursed and we can use that money for other expenses. So of the 22 sites, we have 22 that are rural, and of the 22, we have 14 that are rural, and by rural, I mean off-road. So a lot of them are, or all of them are in Western Alaska, like out of Bethel. And Rural KAPA, so I just want to give a little background to this, is our vision is healthy people, sustainable communities, and vibrant cultures. And as a dietitian, as I'm trying to work on this vision, one of my main goals is to promote the consumption of traditional foods in these schools and help them preserve their culture and their tradition, and by promoting the traditional foods. And so, and the reason for this too, going back, I want to just touch on the research with child nutrition is we know that the earlier children are exposed to foods, the more exposures they have at a young age, the more likely they are to consume those foods throughout their life. And so that is why I see providing these exposures often to traditional foods is going to be really important if we want them to consume them throughout their life. And so as you can imagine, there are a lot of barriers to this that make it really hard to serve the traditional foods in these Head Start programs. CACFP is great for a lot of reasons, but it also can pose some barriers and make it really hard for us to serve traditional foods because of the things that are and aren't allowed to be served to the children. And then just the remoteness with the plane, with flying and shipping and getting the food in, it can be really hard, and also accessibility to these foods can be tough. So one thing that we were able to do this year, we've had a lot of successes and failures, and I'm learning how to figure this out, is we were able to get a moose meat donation, and this came from a hunting outfitting guide out of Bethel, and we received the moose meat, and then one of the hardest things was we just needed to figure out how we were gonna process it in a way that would meet CACFP regulations. And so we transferred all the meat to YKHC, where Robert Hodges generously offered to help process the meat in a way that would meet all of the regulations. And we were able to then ship that to our sites and get moose meat for them. And so just looking forward, that's something that I want to do, is find existing resources that we already have, like this meat that the hunters are, this meat they get every year, and lower 48, people from the lower 48 cannot take it back. And so it's existing resources that we can use in these Head Start programs. Another big goal of ours is to switch over. Right now we have U.S. Foods providing most of our food, but I want to switch that over to primarily local foods and Alaska grown foods. And so that's a big goal. And then also just adapting the menus to fit traditional food practices. Instead of, we have things like chicken nuggets and tacos and stuff served like that. We want them to be culturally relevant for these children. I have some references there, and then my contact, and I'm new to this job, I'm new to Alaska, and I'm even new to being a registered dietitian, and so I look forward to, I'm excited to collaborate with people here. If there's people that want to have ideas for me or suggestions or ways that I can help meet these goals, reach out to me. So thank you.
Okay, our next session that we have up is on composting in Fairbanks. Where are those folks? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Liz. I work at the Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation District, and I'm going to talk a little bit today about a composting project we have, and we started it in April of 2023 through a USDA cooperative agreement on composting and food waste reduction. And we're going to have a 2-year grant cycle, so we'll finish up about March of 2025. And the big overarching goal is to kind of improve access to compost, especially locally created compost for gardeners, agricultural producers, and anyone who might want to consume compost. And we also want to make sure that we're reducing and diverting food waste as best we can, especially with the geographic isolation. In Fairbanks, it's really hard to we have issues recycling and getting rid of all that waste, so we want to be able to process it locally instead of having to ship it other places. Especially when there's so many people experiencing food insecurity, we want to make sure that we're turning this into a resource that agricultural producers can use to grow more food to put back into our community. All right. So yeah, the goals that the USDA outlined was reduce municipal food waste, divert residential and commercial food waste, generate compost, increase access. We also want to improve soil quality, reducing reliance on fertilizers, and encourage waste management and permaculture business development in our community as well. So what we kind of started with was outreach to individual people, and we did this in a few different ways through distributing existing educational materials to people who are interested in composting on their own, and we used a lot of UAF cooperative extension materials, and those are super great and helpful that they have available on their website, and we brought them to a lot of outreach events as well. We had some free workshops going on this summer. We did some on traditional composting, some on alternative forms of composting. We did a dog waste composting workshop for mushers. We did a bokashi, which is a fermented food waste. We'll have a worm one coming up in the winter so people can compost inside when it's a little bit cold for that outside. Did some collaboration with local schools. We have some lessons coming up as part of the after-school program with Title I schools in Fairbanks, and we have a couple teachers that have reached out about having ongoing projects in their classrooms. We have a project going on with the local FFA chapter where they're learning about compost tea, and they're starting some out. They're going to teach a workshop next summer to community members and then give some of that tea away to community gardens. And then we have our backyard composting program where we gave 50 plus community members a free composter of their choice. We had a GeoBin, which is kind of just a wraparound adjustable composter, and then one of the tumblers as well, where they would just attend a 2-hour course to learn about composting, ask their questions, give them some answers and clarity on that, and then they would get to take the composter home to do it in their backyard. And then we also worked a little bit with the Fairbanks Youth for Habitat program, which is middle schoolers doing some conservation work in our community as well. Oh, which button is it? Oops. So yeah, some of our outreach events, we worked at our tree sale where we have annually selling trees and shrubs to our community, which is pretty well attended. We sold some locally produced compost there. We attended a lot of outreach events just to try to connect with people. We had the literacy farmers market with the library where we did some compost bingo with kids and try to teach them about that. And we brought them some worms, which they always like. These are some photos of our workshops that we did. We collaborated with our local NRCS office to do the dog waste compost, which is something we've had a little bit of difficulty getting people interested in, but that is one of our unique feedstocks in Fairbanks that we want to make sure that we're utilizing. And on the left is our bokashi workshop, where Don Carroll of Waste Me Not taught some residents about how you can do anaerobic composting, and it's really cool because you could do it inside over the winter when it's cold. This is our backyard composting programs where people got to see composting on a larger scale, but still in a backyard. They could ask all their questions, see kind of the process that goes into it, and see all of the options like laid out in front of them before they took it home. This is the Youth for Habitat. They all helped us so much, taking food waste, coffee grounds collected from local coffee shops, starting piles, working with it, working with the worms. Kids like it because they get to play with a lot of gross things. They have fun with that. And then we did some community collaboration as well. We started this summer with our pilot community compost drop spots where we had 3 community gardens we worked with. One of them was private, just at a church, so only church members were able to use it, and the other 2 were open to the public, where people could drop off their greens and browns separated in 2 bins, and then we would compost it for them. And then when that compost is finished next summer, we'll give it back to the community gardens in exchange for them letting us use their space, which has been fun, but we have noticed it's not heavily used, so next summer we'll be looking for ways to expand that into other areas that might make it easier for people to drop off their waste. We did go to the Goldstream Community Farmers Market just to bring some of our bins there so people could bring their waste while they were already at the farmers market. We found that was a good place to reach the type of people that were super interested in composting, but we're hoping to expand to a bigger group next summer. We collaborated and supported local producers of compost and agricultural producers. This is our community compost. These are some of the bins that we had. It was really cool to see people dropping things off, asking us questions. For the most part, people were super respectful about not putting trash in there. Definitely a couple passerbys would throw wrappers and things, but it was really great to have people participate in that. We worked a lot with local compost producers already. So this is St. Isidore Farm where they grow flowers and native grass seeds. So once they harvest the seeds, they have all this straw that they don't need, and they compost that over the course of 3 years, and they produce it in bulk, which is awesome. And a lot of farmers buy from them, but not so many gardeners. So they sometimes have trouble selling their product. So what we did is we took it, bagged it into smaller bags, helped with advertising, and it ended up helping them sell a lot of their products. So we plan to collaborate with them in the future and keep working on that with them. We worked with Don Carroll of Waste Me Not, who does the Bokashi soil amendments. We helped him with some food sorting and collection as he's starting his new business. We want to support him in any way that we can. Sold some of his products at our tree sale as well. And then now in the future, we're looking to some large-scale solutions. And one of the main aspects of this project was to complete a feasibility study on composting in Fairbanks. The borough had one done in 2015, but we wanted to kind of build on that since a lot of things have changed. One of the main compost producers was Golden Heart Utilities, they composted biosolids, but now there's a lot of PFAS in that, so they're not allowed to sell it anymore. And so we wanted to be able to fill that demand locally versus getting it imported from places like Washington and California, which costs a lot of money, making it less affordable to agricultural producers. And it's not the microbiology, and it is not as great for our soil, so we wanted to work on that. And so for the feasibility study, we'll be continuing to investigate local feedstocks, such as coffee shops, restaurants, hotels, everything the food bank can't give away to people and animals, farm waste, dog waste, regional markets that exist, some of our existing resources, such as our composting operations in other parts of Alaska, and kind of what we can do in the future. Will community compost work? Do we need a centralized facility? Does it need to be private? Can the borough help with that? And collaborating among other agencies as well. So all of that will be going on next summer. And I think we're out of time. But thank you guys so much for listening.
All right, that was composting in Fairbanks. And next up, we have a session titled The Island, the Fairbanks Food Hub. So they can come on up.
All right. So how long do I have? 8 minutes. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, so I wasn't actually supposed to present for this. This was, I got the opportunity to come down here through the Fairbanks, or the Alaska Food Policy Council's Food Hub Working Group. Yeah, so I was going to present for them, but I accidentally signed up for this, which is great, so I get to present twice. And I guess I thought I had to fill 30 minutes, so I'm a little relieved. And if you guys have any questions at any point in time, just raise your hand. I definitely want this to be an interactive, collaborative speech. And also, I just got back from a conference in Arizona that my wife was at, and everybody was dressed to the T, in suits and ties. And I just gotta say, I'm so grateful to be here where it's more casual, because I felt very out of place. So anyways, yeah, The Island, Cooperative Food Processing in Fairbanks. Next slide, please. Or I guess here's my clicker. Cool. So this started with the Chaga Cooperative, as the first presenter, Kelly May, talked about. We're a wild foods foraging cooperative. I got really stoked on chaga and learning about its health properties, and really wanted to work with it and share it and teach about it. And we worked with others in the industry, and there was a lot of people taking advantage of other people. So we formed a cooperative, and essentially what that is a decentralized distribution and processing network for people that want to work in the forest, earn a living, but being in the forest at the same time, harvesting food medicines in a sustainable manner. So that's how we started, and then we branched off. Now we do educational classes on harvesting, permaculture, mushroom cultivation. We've done classes on compost tea as well. We're engaged with sustainability research. I don't know, how many of you guys have had chaga before? Cool. So chaga is a really slow growing organism, and it can't be cultivated in a lab like other medicinal mushrooms. And so there's a huge sustainability question because of that. And so we are expanding on some research that was published 2 years ago by the Finnish Forest Association to learn about the effects of different harvesting techniques, but also offsetting the harvesting impact in the field by inoculating trees with different methods, and then learning which of those methods are the most accessible. And then we sponsor and host the Fungi Festival in Fairbanks, which is really fun. So yeah, we got roped into joining Affect, which is this really awesome project. Stands for Alternative Fairbanks Farming and Educational Cooperative Training. It's a USDA funded project through Fairbanks Soil and Water. Mel Sykes, wherever you are, she's the superhero of that program. And it's the whole purpose was to create more skilled producers in Fairbanks producing food by providing free courses and pay them to take free courses, pretty much to get more people farming. So we were tasked with building a hydroponics curriculum and a farm and teaching workshops. And so as a result, I've been living and breathing hydroponics for the last 3 years. So first step was we visited some other hydroponic operations. We went to Anchorage Greens, we went to City Farms, and we went to Seeds of Change, which is, yeah, I'm sure everybody knows about Seeds of Change. They're awesome. So yeah, then we built a prototype farm, which was really cool. Gathered resources, completely renovated a cabin, and then began growing. Whole process took about a year, including writing the curriculum. And then there was a jumping off point that my colleague, Kelly May, who just spoke, he decided to take over the farm under his new organization, Alaska Native Greens. And their goals include establishing small farms in the interior villages and hydroponic cultivation of indigenous greens, which is super awesome. And a perfect example of the function of our co-op is to serve as a stable base of operations for our members to create their own ambitious, health-oriented projects. So I'm really happy about that. I do miss farming though. So yeah, then we were talking to our community and we learned that there's a great need for a food hub. But what is a food hub? Because like here in Alaska, it seems like food hubs are marketplaces, essentially online marketplaces. And in the lower 48, they are facilities that aggregate, process, and market and distribute local foods, sharing the infrastructure costs. And that's really what we've learned is needed here in Fairbanks, obviously in the whole state. So it would be wonderful to create an equitable food system for Alaska, applying the lessons that we've learned from the Chaga Cooperative. So we've been engaging our community, learning how best to structure such a entity, facility, right? Some believe a private business is the best method, others believe a cooperative corporation, others think a nonprofit. But we got on the borough SEDS, that was really cool, went and lobbied. And we are on the books for a capital project to establish a community cooperative processing center and storage facility. So, like many local producers in Fairbanks, how am I doing on time? 2 minutes? Okay. They don't have access to DEC certified kitchen, which is a huge problem, especially for a beginning producer because the cost of it's just way too expensive. So, the cooperative extension up at UAF closed down during COVID, and they don't really have goals. I think they have goals to open up, but it seems fairly nebulous. They're pretty sick of hearing from me. So we established our own network of local producers, and we're assisting 2 organizations to Fairbanks certify their kitchens to serve as the first step in this cooperative network to process local foods and distribute them and aggregate them. We've talked to large buyers like the school district and Quality Sales that said they want to buy local food, but it's too expensive for them to buy from each farmer. So there's a need for someone to aggregate all this and process it into a marketable bulk sale. So yeah, we're working with Ken Kunkel Community Center certifying their kitchen, and they're interested in helping create a more robust facility in the future. And the Dogmusters Association is certifying their kitchen as well. So these kitchens will be great for small producers. However, larger businesses, there's a need for larger infrastructure. Group of us, like I said, are discussing building a more robust facility that has adequate storage, processing, and ventilation. So, oh man, I got 1 minute. I thought I had 30 minutes. I was worried about filling 30 minutes. So yeah, hydroponics is awesome. Everybody loves it. It's very hot right now, but obviously energy is a huge problem because you're transmuting coal into food, and obviously we will move towards renewables at some point. But an interesting aspect of hydroponics is that you're utilizing water-soluble chemical fertilizer, which is not really sovereign if you're buying it from outside. Definitely not sustainable. So Don Carroll with Waste Me Not has a food waste stream processing business, and he does bokashi anaerobic fermentation, just like Liz was just talking about. And I tested that. There's 2 products that you get from that. You get like a solution and a solid that's It's anaerobic, it's super quick fermentation, composting, and it's a alternative to traditional composting, which takes a really long time. And the solution, the liquid, has an extremely high electrical conductivity nutrient content. So it is a possibility for hydroponics. So spread the word on that. And let's see what else. My clicker's not. Oh yeah, we've learned a ton. The cooperative has been just an incredible learning experience. Management, leadership, we've had members go above and beyond. We've had members be really dishonest about resources and commitments. But ultimately, we want to ensure equitable access to high quality nutrition. And we'll partner with anybody who's interested in those things. Thank you, let's work together. And I'm sorry, I just want to do one more thing. Before I came down here, I was like kind of anxious about like a bunch of different things. And so like, have you guys heard of like the boreal forest cards? They're like, someone makes these like kind of like tarot cards. So I pulled one of those. I was like, whatever, you know. And it says, starting today, unfetter, set your potential free, and grow wildly. Don't plan, push the world away without a care, and build. Create a new space for yourself, expand, and see where it takes you. Get messy, focus, and produce. Spread the word, and others may wish to join you and make a new home in your creation. And then it has a little blurb about witch's broom, which is a fungus that inoculates spruce trees. And in doing so, creates a habitat for the flying squirrel. So thanks everybody, and I got a bunch of goodies here from the co-op. We got some morel mushrooms and chaga and tinctures, so just raise your hand, and yeah, you guys want some? I'll pass them out. Thanks guys. All right, who wants mushrooms? You guys want some chaga or morel?
All right, raise your hand high if you want some of this swag. Next group coming up is titled Needs and Opportunities in Southern Southeast, a presentation of a needs assessment research. Come on up.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Brown. I'm here representing the Ketchikan Agricultural Producers Association. KAPA is a nonprofit that was formed in 2021 to try to create a closed-loop food system in the southern southeast Alexander Archipelago. We recently completed a 24-month needs assessment and feasibility study of the food system in our region and the potential methods of solving some of those potential issues. And I'm here to just recap the 2 years of research into 8 minutes as quickly as I can. But for our area, what we found were a few key things. One of those being land access, which I like to describe our geographic region as a mountain range that's been halfway submerged by the ocean with about an inch of topsoil. So as you can imagine, not exactly a place that's going to be conducive to traditional agriculture. There's also, as mentioned in other presentations today, a patchwork of ownership and land management that can make traditional agriculture very difficult. In addition to that, food production in our area is generally, as far as traditional agriculture goes, at a household level. Demand for local products exceeds supply significantly, and there's a really strong subsistence and foraging culture within our communities as well. There have been some forays into closed environment agriculture with 2 companies, one called Ketchikan Evergreens and another one called Outpost Agriculture, that have established hydroponic leafy greens farms in our community. And we're hoping that we can get more closed environment agriculture to continue to grow terrestrial agriculture in our area, considering our geographic difficulties. As an island with zero access to the outside road system, transportation is always a challenge for us. And also monopolies on sea freight prices and cuts to state-funded ferries have caused issues for us to move products around the state and from island to island within our area as well. Qualified labor is always a challenge in our small rural communities. And then there is no infrastructure for the processing, storage, and aggregation of the crops and food that does exist within our area. There's no public cold storage, there's very little warehousing, and there is no processing equipment for producers and fishermen. This is particularly an issue for fishermen who are one of the largest contributors to the food system in our region, because they do not have the ability then to sell their own catch. They're required to sell to processors in our area. There are a couple of areas of opportunity in our region. One of those is mariculture. There has been a really big investment on a federal and state level to develop our coastlines, and Southeast Alaska has a lot of eyes on it as a region where we can do this. And our seafood economy is one of the largest food economies in our region as well. So the core challenge that our research leveraged was that their deck really seems to be stacked against local producers and in favor of our national and international food distribution systems. And so KAPA has the challenge of finding a way to level this playing field and make it easier for Alaskans to feed Alaskans in our area. So we came up with, it looks like we got a little bit cut off here, but a few core findings. Number one of those being that shared infrastructure and coordination are going to be needed to support all of our independent food production in our area. Aggregation is going to be key to leveraging the buying and selling power of small producers. This is very reminiscent of the Fairbanks folks that just presented as well. Sounds like there's a lot of commonalities across our communities. We need to come up with some creative transportation and food distribution solutions. Alternative agriculture, such as mariculture and closed environment agriculture, are things that are going to be very important for Southern Southeast. The resources and infrastructure are also going to be needed to support at multiple levels of commercial food production, whether that's household level or business level. And there's a lot of potential that lies in capacity building with our small informal producers. So the solution that we've come up with is a food hub, very similar to our Fairbanks friends as well. This is just an example of kind of what a food hub can do. The USDA calls it a centrally located facility with a business management structure facilitating aggregation, storage, processing, distribution, and marketing of locally produced foods. So something that would seem to directly address all of the issues that we've just elevated with the research. In Ketchikan, we're currently in the process of fundraising to build a new facility that's going to have several core functions. Primarily in that, we're going to have a fish and mariculture processing room for all of the startup businesses that are making an attempt to enter the marketplace here, and the new farmers in the mariculture space that are also looking to start farming in the coastal waters outside of Ketchikan. We're looking at a shared use commercial kitchen to help build the capacity of those independent household level producers. And we're looking at ambient cold and freezer level pallet level storage. And then as KAPA is able to develop its mission and its charter more robustly as the economy, the food economy begins to grow in our region, we're looking at classroom and community spaces and then making sure that we have loading and receiving. And what's going to be really critical for us, and I think for a lot of other small coastal communities who are looking to create food resilience, is going to be water access. So all of this infrastructure should be placed on the water to enable fish and mariculture assets to be pulled out of the water and processed on land. So the vision for our facility, it's going to be service rental, so that's going to be the commercial space, the kitchen space. Basically any piece of this facility can be rented on like a cubic foot, by the day, by the hour, so it's going to be a great space for small businesses to be incubated, product prototyping, different opportunities for folks to try different value-added production, and an opportunity for farmers to also process and directly sell any of their resources. We're also looking at creating what we're calling a hub and spoke model. So starting here in Ketchikan and building this out, and then being able to create smaller facilities in other areas in the area that we assessed, which includes Metlakatla and the Prince of Wales Island communities as well. Be operated right now as a nonprofit. We're in discussions with our borough assembly and with our city council to see if there's any kind of shared responsibilities there that we could do. And we're looking to sustain this financially with a combination of grants and earned revenue through the rental income that we would receive for this. The impact of this is obviously wide scale. Ketchikan is a community of 12,000, but we also are kind of a hub for several other smaller communities across Inlet and Prince of Wales Islands. And so we really want to have, as we say, like to say in the coastal communities here, that a rising tide lifts all boats. And so starting here, we can do what we need to do in Ketchikan and enable the infrastructure to then be scaled out to service those other communities. The full report for this is available on our website. It's ketchikanagriculture.org. So I encourage anyone who's interested to please go download that or come find me at any of the after any of these sessions and let's have a chat. Thank you.
This is the lightning round. I feel like we're going fast. So we'll bring up our last speaker today who has a little bit more time to explain what she and her organization is up to. Let's invite Jessica to the stage to talk about Alaska's newest urban conservation district, Anchorage.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jessica Sharp. I'm the district manager for the Anchorage Soil and Water Conservation District. I'm originally from Fairbanks, and I worked for that conservation district for 7 years. Then I worked for Homer Soil and Water, and then I just happened to end up in Anchorage around the same time that the Anchorage district was getting going, and just kind of was in the right place at the right time and was able to take over being manager of that district. Let me figure out the clicker here. So around 2021, there was some interest in starting an organization that could deal with some problems in Anchorage that were occurring, like invasive species and food security concerns and things of that nature. And so I'd like to make a little call out for Jim Rankert sitting in the middle over here. He helped to get together some volunteers to become our first board of supervisors. And we were officially recognized as a new district in November of 2021. If anyone has been around for a long time, you may have heard of Anchorage having a district about 10 years ago, but that ended up just fizzling and there wasn't a district here for a long time. There's about 9 other districts throughout Alaska that are active, but for a long time, Anchorage did not have a conservation district. So today I'm going to talk about our urban agriculture program. We do have other programs. We have our invasive species program, our native plants program, and we do cooperative work on J-Bear, the Army base here. But today, since this is an agriculture conference, I'm going to focus on our agriculture program. So when we were first started thinking about doing some urban agriculture work, we decided to apply for a planning grant through NACD, just to sort of start the gears turning and figure out where we were going to go with it. Oops. So we were able to get the planning grant from NACD, and it was just a really small grant, about $10,000, but it paid for my time to do some research and networking and to figure out what kind of projects would be beneficial for the Anchorage area. So our objectives were to figure out what the conservation technical assistance needs were in Anchorage, to discover opportunities to improve food security, and to determine where our organization would fit into the picture with what everybody else was already doing in Anchorage. So there's a lot of great organizations that are already doing things in Anchorage. For instance, Anchor Gardens, Cooperative Service, Yardacopia. There's just a number of different organizations that are doing awesome work, and we didn't want to step on anybody's toes. And we wanted to kind of see what were gaps that needed to be filled, or where could we advance work that other people were already doing in a collaborative manner. So we did a literature review of agriculture-related documents just to see what was out there. We did a lot of interviews, and when I say we, it was mostly me and some of my board members who volunteered their time. And so we talked to anybody we could find who is involved with agriculture in Anchorage and asked them questions about what they thought the needs were in Anchorage and how we could improve food security locally. We also did a mapping effort on where Alaska-grown foods were available in Anchorage. For instance, farmers markets, stores that sold Alaska-grown, and things like that. And so you can see that's the map up there. For now, this map was just farmers markets, but we also have one that includes stores that sell Alaska grown. So we were trying to see what the distribution was in Anchorage. And then based on all of the interviews, we came up with a list of project ideas. And from there, we did an ideas workshop with our partners. So when we were forming this program, we really wanted to serve what the local people wanted to see happen in Anchorage. We didn't want to just come in brand new and just say, hey, we think this will work, and then just go forward with it. We wanted to hear what other people thought who'd been working in this industry for a long time, find out what they thought would be beneficial, how we could help the farmers, and what would be the best idea going forward. So we had a workshop where we had everybody come who represented different agencies and organizations and people working in agriculture. And they had a forum where they could present their ideas of what they'd like to see happen in Anchorage. And then once everybody had presented their ideas and had some open discussion time, then we did a ranking of those ideas. So we basically put a bunch of big white sticky sheets on the wall with ideas written on them, and then gave everyone a few different stickers to pick their top ideas. So once we had that, we had some ideas that came out as being top ranking. We used those to put together some grant proposals. So we turned out 3 grant proposals that winter, and the first one was to NACD for launching a soil testing program in Anchorage and also hosting some garden workshops. The second one was an economic feasibility study on expanding year-round agriculture production in Anchorage. And unfortunately, this one wasn't funded, but we're going to improve the application and try again this coming spring. And the third one had to do with mapping Alaska Grown and doing different kinds of advertising for getting people to eat more locally in Anchorage, and that was through Division of Ag. And we weren't funded for that one as well, but we'll like to continue to try again and maybe begin to build up some agricultural education programs for kids in the community as we get more staff capacity. So the grant that we were awarded this year was from the National Association of Conservation Districts, and it was to start a soil testing program in Anchorage and to host garden workshops. So my idea for the garden workshops was, instead of recreating the wheel and starting from scratch, we worked closely with Anchor Gardens, who's a volunteer organization that does really amazing gardening workshops and volunteer work in Anchorage. And so we just cut them a check, and we worked closely with them, and they used their volunteers and local knowledge to put on these workshops this summer. And there'll be more in the spring. So what my staff focused on was doing the soil testing part of the program. So we advertised for free soil samples, and we got 100 people signed up very quickly. And then from there, we just went around and visited people's farms and gardens and helped them take soil samples and sent those off to the lab. And this winter, we'll be doing an analysis of those and sending people personalized fertilizer recommendations. And we're hoping to continue this program once the grant funding is over, just by charging people fees for their soil tests, and still providing that hands-on local assistance with getting soil samples to the lab and helping people to understand what those mean and how they can apply it in their own gardens. So another exciting thing that's happened with our urban agriculture program is that we got a cooperative agreement with the NRCS, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service. And they're a branch of the USDA that works with private landowners to conserve natural resources on private land. And currently there's no NRCS office in Anchorage. There's only one in Palmer and Wasilla. And the Wasilla office is supposed to serve Anchorage, Wasilla, and also a huge area of southwestern Alaska. And so they were so busy doing everything in the other parts of their region that they didn't even have any contracts in Anchorage. And they didn't do any outreach in Anchorage other than maybe like an occasional conference. So we got this cooperative agreement to sort of work as like the outreach and technical assistance arm of NRCS here locally. And so what we'll be able to do is to host workshops, outreach at local events, provide technical assistance like one-on-one to people who are in Anchorage from an Anchorage perspective and not someone coming in from somewhere else. And NRCS has a lot of money coming to really get new contracts and new programs. And apparently they're doing this push to get more high tunnels in, which if anybody was here last summer in Anchorage, it was cold and rainy and horrible for gardening. So I think getting a lot of new high tunnels in Anchorage could be a really awesome thing for food security here. So we're looking forward to implementing this program starting this winter and spring. Our objectives are to build capacity by hiring an urban agriculture program leader. And I've got that job advertisement at our booth, which is on the right-hand side over there. Assist with NRCS outreach and technical assistance. And we're also working to provide information to NRCS about the Anchorage area. And then, like I said, over time, we'll be starting to put workshops out, like high tunnel workshop, nutrient management workshop, things like that that can help translate federal things that are going on into regular human language. One other quick project that we just put a proposal in for recently is to create a microclimate map of the Anchorage area. Using satellite temperature data, installing new weather stations, and using either DEM or LIDAR for the topography and combining that to create a microclimate map to help growers know what varieties might be successful in their area. We have a big difference throughout the Anchorage area depending on your elevation, how close you are to the water, and a number of other different factors. The weather is very different from one area to another, and it's hard for people to know what varieties will be successful, especially when it comes to growing fruit tree varieties. So our plan is to install 6 weather stations, compile fruit variety records from orchards, and then create the microclimate map in GIS and host some workshops to share our results as well as sharing at conferences too. So fingers crossed we get that one. And kind of as far as our future program direction goes, our first goal is to just build capacity for the program. Right now I've been trying to implement the program as well as being the manager and doing the bookkeeping. So it's like I can only spend a little bit of time on it. But once I hire our program leader, they will be full-time focused on agriculture in Anchorage, and that's going to be a huge step forward. We're looking to diversify our program funding so that it's more sustainable, and also so that we can start some new projects. So we'll add at least 1 to 2 new funding sources for this program over the next year. We want to continue working in a collaborative, science-based manner. We never intend to step on anyone's toes of who's already doing great work in our area. And we also like to work with partners that aren't even in our area. So our neighboring soil and water conservation districts, our neighboring tribes, all of those people we want to work collaboratively with and share information and use our resources to the best possible way that we can. And then we just want to continue growing our program and doing what we can to help food security in Anchorage and help the farmers and urban growers that exist in our borders. And that's all I have. Thank you. Yep.
Okay, everyone, thanks for coming to our after lunch lightning sessions. If you have any questions for anyone that you saw today present, grab them nicely and ask them questions. Some of them even had swag.